I'm a good person. Like, I love this. You know, I respect this.
Logic, I beg of you, don't go to the studio ever again.
That's what I love about my fans, and my fans, like, they support me no matter what I do.
My favorite thing is the whole energy he brings. He literally came from the bottom.
Feeling a strong 3 to a light 4 on the...
Open your mind, and this is for the true fans, and I know that you guys get it.
I wanted to be loved and accepted by everybody.
Back in the day used to be lonely, ask Castro, yeah, that's just the past though.
Logic, you are easily one of the worst rappers to ever grace a microphone. I'm gonna be honest.
I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Like them, love them, or hate them. This is the gift and curse of rap superstar Logic.
That's how we was rocking! Play that shit, play it, play it!
But let my rap sing.
From the horror stories of growing up in a broken home without support and sleeping on a friend's couch while working countless of minimum wage jobs, just trying to make his dreams come true, to receiving a Song of the Year nomination at the Grammys and selling millions of records, Logic's source of inspiration and hunger has come from the harsh reality that statistically, he was never supposed to get this far. From welfare and Section 8 housing to being able to develop a cult-like fan base in music, Logic has seemingly left a lasting impression on the music industry and his fans.
Biggest dreams came true to sell out Madison Square Garden.
On a skill level, Logic has been praised for his storytelling, introspective lyrics, and production quality. The Maryland MC has enjoyed the luxury to be surrounded by many of talented musicians and industry professionals that helped Logic accomplish his dreams along the way. Logic's humility and likable personality, along with his admirable message of peace, love, and positivity, has resonated with fans across the world. He has also been very responsible with his platform by raising awareness about mental health and social issues.
I think your life is extremely important, and I think that we all have hard times, we have dark times, and I've been in them, you know, even right now. Like, I'm smiling and I'm, you know, everything's great, but like, I have issues, I have problems.
Focusing on the brand of Logic has always been important to him and his team.
And so I always felt, instead of buying crazy cars or XYZ, to make sure I can build a company, build a brand.
Smart musicians understand that just making great music isn't enough. You have to provide fans and supporters with an experience. And how do you accomplish that? By focusing on your live show. Logic has worked tirelessly to develop into the performer he is today, with his crowd and breath control being some of the highlights of his performing abilities.
Because I'm the type of artist that's like, I don't have a hit, you know, but I can do 5,000 people in Chicago or 4,000 people in LA in 2 hours, and it's sold out.
Logic has always found different ways to connect and be interactive with his fans, whether that is through his tour and studio vlog series in Just Another Day, or traveling from state to state to play his album for his core audience. It's clear that Logic knew the necessary steps to build a lasting impression in connecting with the people. As I examine Logic's career from a marketing standpoint and branding, appealing to both men and women was always his goal, and by branding his male audience as the Rat Pack and his female audience as the Bobby Soxers, he was able to carve out a cult-like fan base for himself. Logic's career thus far is an interesting case study of what can happen when an artist invests into themselves and their core audience.
I'm literally touring to meet my fans, play them my album before anybody else in the world gets to hear it.
And how you can win by just being yourself. With Chris Zaru as his manager and No ID being his mentor and the one that gave him his first major label opportunity with Def Jam Records, it seems that Logic's fate was set up to be a success story. However, even as great as an artist and performer Logic is, we all know that no artist is infallible and no artist is above criticism.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna be me to the fullest.
Now, one thing I noticed about this album, well, I noticed it with the last album. The last album sounds a lot like Good Kid, Mad City.
You know, this sounds like Drake's flow, right? And so some people are like, oh, he's biting.
A lot of people don't know this. You're biracial.
Yes, I am.
He looks like he looks like a straight up white dude.
Straight up white dude with the blue eyes. People see me, and even though it may be negative, like, oh, this is a white boy about to rap. And so it does kind of put the like, okay, let's watch him fail, and then they see me rap, and I do my best to gain their respect. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about the music. Music knows no color.
Logic still continued to stand firm on his beliefs, and he showed vulnerability and his truth, even in the face of intense and critical scrutiny.
Everybody with the Twitter account feels like they write for Rolling Stone.
Yeah, that's so true.
Exactly. If I just focus on the numbers and the fans and the asses in the seats that are sold out when I tour, to let me know I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. Some of us can agree that while being different is welcomed and encouraged, it still has to be relatable. And there's this delicate balance to where being different still has to be digestible for current times. And I admit It's a lot easier for me to say than for an artist to go out and create it. And I believe that while Logic was attempting to be different, sometimes he struggled to be relatable.
You said this, but you backed it up. I love hip-hop and I hate hip-hop.
What I was talking about is kind of the culture, certain people, certain just
fans?
sects or different. Not really.
Not your fans, but fans of hip-hop.
No, just people that are open-minded and can't accept things.
When Logic would release a new album, he would receive praise from one side of the spectrum of hip-hop that understood him, but also pushback from the ones that did not. Over time, he realized that he couldn't please everyone.
Sometimes people will be like, oh, I miss the old this, or I miss the old that, or da-da. But it's like, that's where it is, that's where it lives. They did that already, this is them. Whether you like it or not, you love that, so just support them and be happy that, you know, they're doing what they love.
But it wasn't just haters that had criticism for Logic. It also came from fans, ones that had been there as he was building on the come-up. And whispers from fans started to intensify over the years. What happened to Logic? I miss the old Logic. These questions are what inspired this video. Did he pivot too fast? Did some of his interests and concepts become unrelatable? Did the money change him? Did he lose his focus and stop caring about his music? And perhaps the criticism is overblown? Or maybe there's some truth to it. Are these just opinions?
You know, I cared so much about getting my story out there and being an advocate for this culture and where we come from, you know, and showing love and respect to the pioneers, my predecessors, and I have their respect.
Sometimes consumers of hip-hop will decide when they are tired of an artist, even if the artist did everything right in their career. So let's examine Logic's career, album by album, and see if Logic actually let his fans down, or if he was truly consistent all along.
So we're gonna do this one for like the Rat Pack and shit. Is it recording?
From 2009 to 2013, Logic released an impressive catalog of mixtapes and free albums that received positive reviews. During this time, it was the Young Sinatra series that led to Logic's first taste of success and initial core following. Logic achieved this by structuring his records with bigger hooks and pop sensibilities, lyricism, and relatable and youthful songwriting. Logic's personality shined bright on these mixtapes and exposed his audience to what they would come to love over time. The mixing was clean and raw, and it was reminiscent of the sound at the time, as well as an admiration and appreciation for 90s hip-hop. Logic branded himself as raw, authentic, and smooth. The comedic yet realistic skits such as Sellout Records and the character of Marty Randolph showcased Logic's humorous side, and also showed him as a breath of fresh air to the industry. He was marketed to the college demographic as he would occasionally do college radio freestyles and place them as interludes on his mixtapes. Logic did most of the heavy lifting with music that many people could enjoy, and the music blogs, his management, and word of mouth did the rest of the marketing for him. Logic would go on to continue to refine what he set out to accomplish on Young Sinatra, and he couldn't have picked a more suitable title for a project. On this project, he displayed a lot of promise, a lot of technical skill, improved confidence, and the quality of records became sharper. He also displayed a tremendous amount of versatility. He had a cool factor to him as well, and some of the lyrics that stuck out rang very true of his situation and also his approach to the industry going forward. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. 2013 and 2014 were game-changing years for the young Maryland MC. The visionary music group artist made the XXL freshman class, inked a deal with Def Jam Records, and dropped his wildly successful mixtape, Young Sinatra, Welcome to Forever. The mixtape was a critical success and was one of the leading factors to help him secure a record deal with Def Jam Records. As Logic started to gain more traction and attention, everything that he had worked up until this point started to come into fruition for him. And now it was time to prove to himself and the mainstream that he could play ball with his idols and other superstars of today.
I was like, damn, like Welcome to Forever. Like after this mixtape comes out, after this this album comes out, like, you know, this mixtape Welcome to Forever, I will forever be a part of hip hop. And I wasn't before. Like the XXL freshman shit and the Def Jam shit, and then releasing this solidified me. I'm in hip hop now. I'm in hip hop. I'm in the discussion.
What he did right branding and marketing wise was he set a precedent for the dreamers. He had a certain appeal about him that made you buy in and that made you feel connected. And it felt like seeing the person that you've grown to love go from broke to rich and actually see their dreams become a reality. Logic's first studio album, Under Pressure, was released in 2014. The album was a huge success, selling 75,000 units in its first week, and debuted at number 4 on the US Billboard 200 despite it being undershipped by his label.
It's really dope when you keep the same people that you started your sound with.
And the connection he built with his audience set him up perfectly for this moment. And I remember him being very active on social media with hashtags for his fans for the album rollout, like Ask Logic, or when he was teasing the song Nicki. And well, Logic's core audience probably would have bought a blank disc by him at this point. They were that invested. And after he put out the album, he toured this album and connected more with his growing audience, and he put up $500,000 of his own money. I'd say that was money well spent. And for Logic, at this time, it was all about the message.
The reason I listen to you, the reason I love your music, the reason I wear your shirts and scream your name every second of every minute is because of your message of peace, love, positivity, and following your dreams, you know?
And radio wasn't essentially as important. And because of his growing audience, he didn't have to focus on it as much. The album and Logic was marketed as hip-hop's second renaissance, as Logic was a part of that 2014 class that showed a lot of promise. Logic strongly leaned into his message of peace, love, and positivity, and technical rapping ability. He didn't have to worry about a hit, and explained that if that record comes, then it will happen naturally. And the criticism about him wearing his influences on his sleeve might be due to how he was fearless in showcasing his influences, and he was determined to not be boxed into one sound.
They were like, you don't have a sound. Like, you can rap on a trap beat, you can rap on a raw beat, you can rap on a commercial beat, you can rap on some cool, weird Kendrick Lamar type shit. Like, you could, I don't know, what is your sound? I said, you know what? I don't think I'm not defined by necessarily a sound, but my flow.
And it's also possible that Logic ended up sounding too much like his peers because of this, which may have came across as inauthentic to some, and not all the way definitive of who Logic is. Although I do understand that traditionally that happens when you're an artist and you're trying to study other artists and aspire to be where they are, I do believe he could have locked in more and made it a priority to differentiate himself early from his influences to set the tone.
This concludes the Under Pressure program.
Logic's second studio album, The Incredible True Story, was released in 2015 and debuted at number 3 on the US Billboard 200. The album was a concept album that told the story of 2 astronauts traveling through space, and it was praised for its creativity and storytelling. But Logic did right on his album cycle as far as branding and marketing. He spent 7 figures to play the album for fans and made an album catered for touring. The production value and sound design sets the tone for the perfect fan experience. And I feel that Logic analyzed the market and saw what would work for him, for his fans' core audience, and for fan engagement. Although going to fans' houses for the second album cycle was an idea that was seen with J. Cole prior, I still feel that the idea was great and he executed it on it well. But did he alienate a certain demographic? Making an album about space isn't necessarily something that suits all listeners. However, his understanding of technology and how it can be used to access things beyond what most would think is inconceivable is a great idea.
I was almost a little nervous to create this album because it was so me. It was so on some nerd shit. I wasn't sure how it was going to be received, but that's the same thing that also kind of set me free about it as well. You know what I'm saying?
And some of the similar critiques that he got on his first album trickled down to his second album. For instance, on the intro on Incredible True Story, it opens up with a certain drums that we've all come to know and love from Kanye West, and those drums were heard on Amazing. Logic had a great explanation for this, that while we hear Amazing, these are actually Japanese drums.
The concept is different, but if you are listening to the music and you say, okay, it sounds like a Cole record, it sounds like a Drake record, Kanye, whoever, how can it really be different?
I think it's different because it's me and nobody's rapped it like me. Nobody's done it like me, and that's real.
But most of us don't associate that drum pattern with Japanese drums. Although Logic is correct, we associate it with Kanye West. So you get the criticism of him potentially biting Kanye West instead of being original. Although these Japanese drums may have been Kanye West's inspiration in the first place, we likely credit Kanye West as the originator of that idea. And while technically this idea does separate him from his peers, it may have fell flat sonically in execution. And maybe it was a test to weed out early who was going to truly support him, and maybe those that were core fans of Logic prior to this album could have seen this idea coming. Logic hasn't necessarily shied away from his fascination from space and was likely talking about it as early as 2013.
I selfishly made this album. I made this album so I could vent. I made this album because that's what I feel I needed to say.
Logic's third studio album, Everybody, was released in 2017 and debuted at number 1 on the US Billboard 200. The album was a social commentary on race, religion, and mental health. It featured collaborations with artists like Killer Mike, Juicy J, and Alessia Cara. It was praised for its diversity, lyricism, and production quality.
How do you pull off an album rapping from different perspectives of a life that one man lived who is actually everyone? It's just crazy.
At this point in his career, Logic has been very consistent. And along with that consistency includes other great aspects about him, like the well thought out conceptual albums and the positive messaging, as well as other things that have drawn some criticism. However, what was different about this album cycle is he had a magical moment that even Logic didn't expect. This album featured the powerful single in 1-800-273-8255. The song's title is the phone number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and it aims to raise awareness about mental health and suicide prevention.
It was the last song on the album, Everybody, on my third album, and I was like, I don't even want to do this. Like, I put it off, and then I did it, and I did it because for years, fans have been like, you saved my life, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I've never even tried to save your life, and I was like, damn, what if I actually tried? What if I legitimately tried to make a song to save somebody's life?
Logic collaborated with Alessia Cara and Khalid on this track, and together they created a song that resonated with millions of people worldwide. It was also nominated for Song of the Year at the Grammys and has garnered over 400 million views on YouTube, further spreading its message of hope and awareness. Everybody is the all-inclusive and uplifting album, with a message that's relatable to most people. However, the more that Logic focused on the technical ability of rapping and the actual structure of rapping, the more the songwriting took a hit. Stay with me here. Whereas in his come up and earlier mixtapes, melody and harmony gives that necessary breathing room for Logic to switch up his rap cadences, stretch out his subject matter, and let the song flow without forcing much. I've noticed that when Logic is in that pocket, he places less fatigue on the listener's ear, and it's not as easy to compare Logic to his contemporary influences.
Young Sinatra, when I dropped Undeniable, it's not as good as Young Sinatra though, the first one. And then when I dropped the third one, that wasn't as good as the second one. When I dropped the album, that wasn't as good as Welcome to Forever. Like, legit, it's just all biased bullshit.
I don't believe the criticism that Logic is having an identity crisis, like Joe Budden alluded to on his podcast.
I just think that Logic should be himself. He panders to the black community every other second.
At this time, he was very firm in his own beliefs, in not just interviews, but on this album as well. But I do think the criticism that he hasn't reinvented himself definitely sticks and rings true on this album. It likely stems from outshining his peers. Think about it. When you hear the conversation and when J. Cole talks about his place in hip-hop, they likely compare him to either Kendrick Lamar or Drake. And J. Cole had to come to the realization that he's not Kendrick Lamar and that he's not Drake. He's simply J. Cole. And he runs to the beat of his own drum and is running his own race. And at that point, when he realized that, he gained a lot of clarity. I think Logic suffers from the same perspective and position of where he compares to his peers. If you look at the 2013 XXL freshman class and revisit it and see how Logic compares to his peers, Logic essentially has outshined the majority of that class. So I understand why we look to the next tier to see where Logic compares. There's no other person to really compare him to in this lane, in this niche, other than Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar. Who would be another peer to compare himself to? Would it be Chance the Rapper? Would it be Vic Mensa? Would it be Schoolboy Q? Would it be Ab Soul? It begs the question of, is Logic just more successful than all of his peers? If so, perhaps we may have to look at Logic's career in a different light and give him more credit. There's not too many people from that class that has a diamond record. Logic continued his chart-topping streak with his fourth studio album, Young Sinatra IV, which was released in 2018. And it features Logic in raw form and a return to his essence and humble beginnings. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart, and Logic's career in 2018 not only brought him commercial success, but also allowed him to use his platform to address important social issues. And what he did right marketing and branding wise is he paid attention to his core audience and to the countless of fans that say, yeah, his albums are cool, but his mixtape shit is better. He kept them concise, raw, and even incorporated pop-leaning records like One Day and Ordinary Day. He even had go-go inspired records like 100 Miles and Running. Now, my only critique for Logic at this point is that he didn't allow for more time in between album cycles to live life and come back with a new, fresh perspective. In my honest opinion, it takes an artist quality time off, to take some time off in order to give us something new, a change in their life, maybe something different happen. That's why they always say the reason why an artist's first album sounds the way it does in terms of quality, and it's a lot of people's favorite album, is because they had their whole entire life to write that first album. Now, you can let me know in the comment box if you think this may have contributed to a quality drop-off, or maybe it didn't. Cue in the Bobby Tarantino series, and you can see on these tapes Logic experimenting with a variation of flows. He also used his tape as an outlet to tap into deeper issues, free his mind, and get some things off his chest.
There was so much on my mind that I just wanted to break free and be free. And that's what this entire project is. Bobby Tarantino is the alter ego of me.
I and the team have just created a Discord server, and we would love for you to join. Now, if you're a content creator watching me, a YouTuber, streamer, podcaster, this is the place for you. If you're just a general music fan, you want to have hot takes, debates, send memes, be around friends and like-minded individuals, this is the place for you. If you're a songwriter, engineer, producer, you're an artist, this is the place for you. You're looking to get your music heard, this is the place for you. If you're a future music industry professional, making power plays, connecting people, you want to find an artist, you want to find a gem, this is the place for you. A&Rs, future digital marketers, future graphic designers, photographers, creatives, as well as business professionals. We are all in one community, and we would love to have you. If this is something you're interested in, the link is in the description box below. We will see you there. Now, enjoy the video. At this time, I started to notice Logic growing more tired of the criticism, and he was losing passion for wanting to be the best and making music to be the best rapper. And I started to notice Logic making music that he was happy to make, or music that he felt would suit his fan base, that would love him no matter what he did. And I can honestly say, although maybe some of his fan base were satisfied by this move, I and some other parts of his fan base started to check out and feel more disconnected.
I think at first some fans, when they heard it, they were like, not even that it's bad, but it's like, oh, I like it when you on some rapidy rap shit, right, or blah, blah, blah. But like I said, your new shit is never as good as your old shit until your new shit is your old shit.
I understand that Logic likes to play with his words and play with different flows, do the double time raps, but I remember a point in time where the actual structure of the raps didn't come at the expense of the substance of the records or of the content of the raps. And it feels like he spent more time making sure that these songs were listenable, enjoyable, and relatable to a wide variety of people. You already have your core audience, but it seemed like at this time he was sacrificing and alienating more fans that could relate to him. If you go back to his earlier interviews and clips, he wanted to make music for not just one type of person, but for all people. And it seems like he lost that attribute over time. My criticism of Bobby Tarantino, although it was done in good faith and fun, and it was harmless, that he was inspired by trap. Trap is not just My criticism for the Bobby Tarantino mixtape series is that although Logic was inspired by trap music and it was done in good faith and good fun, I think he had a miscalculation in that trap music is not just hi-hat, snare rolls, and the 808s. Trap is the actual experiences of the artists who make that music. And trap music isn't trap music if the soul is absent. Just like in all music, there's a soul connection that connects the audience to the artist. And most notoriously and notably is these artists that come from these regions that make trap music. It is the experiences of these artists as humans that make trap music trap music. And trap music is no longer trap if the soul is vapid. Okay? And that matters in the execution. And I think that's what differentiates Logic's interpretation of trap music and actual trap music done correctly. In 2019, Logic released Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which also debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, further showcasing his consistent success, more hit records, and further expanding out into the mainstream with collaborations from Eminem, G-Eazy, Gucci Mane, and Wiz Khalifa.
From 2018 to 2019, that's what I did. I went and I made a lot of fucking money, and I made so much money, and it was awesome. And then I was like, ugh, I mean, I'm comfortable, but I'm not really happy.
Logic did what I think most successful major label artists would do. You put out your first couple of projects, and if they are successful, if you're lucky for them to be successful, you receive more funding and you're able to fulfill your contractual obligations and hopefully reclaim your independence and creative freedom. I applaud him for being able to be that successful, to invest in his ideas like Supermarket, excellent idea, and to put that out fearlessly. However, I must selfishly add that as a fan that became a fan of Logic in 2011, I must selfishly add that I was very well aware of his influences. And I thought they were dope because they were the hottest artists at the moment. And as an artist aspiring to be where your influences are, I understand that you are going to adopt some of their ways, but a healthy inspiration is that you take on those ideas and you build your own sound. I had hope for him at the time to go on to supersede these Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole comparisons and eventually go on to develop his own sound and hell, maybe even set a couple musical trends. And I understood that by 2017, those expectations that I had set for Logic likely wouldn't happen. And it took for me making this video to understand that that was okay. And I understand those type of expectations robbed me from being able to see this journey that Logic went on, this beautiful journey of consistency. And maybe if I took myself out of that and just saying, okay, this is one of my favorite artists and this is what I hope for them, perhaps I would have been able to understand some of his moves better and more clearly. But it's always hindsight in 2020. And that's not to say that I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to love every project by an artist that I love. You're not supposed to love every single project. Some projects are not for you, and some projects were selfishly made for the artist to satisfy a creative niche or try something different. I understand that. Now, within the clique of Visionary Music Group, at first there were Quest, the artist formerly known as Quest, now known as Sylvan LaQ. You had Castro, before Castro became reacquainted with Logic. You had very skilled and talented lyricists and MCs pushing Logic's pen and Logic's songwriting. And I felt that when they departed, Logic no longer had someone to look to have an iron sharpens iron mentality. He was all alone. So I feel that Logic became stagnant in the quality of raps, in my personal opinion. Maybe another factor is that Logic didn't allow much time in between album releases to really reflect on how he wanted to transcend his sound. And while we applaud him for his consistency, it's unrealistic to expect fresh perspective when you are that consistent. Logic is far from a failure at this point, as he accomplished everything he wanted to do. And he did something even more important that I applaud him for. He ensured his happiness comes first, and anyone else's expectations will just stay expectations. And final studio album, No Pressure, was released in 2020 and debuted at number 2 on the US Billboard 200, selling a impressive 221,000 records in the first week. Another reason why Logic retired was because he felt that he had accomplished everything he wanted to do in music. And he said that he didn't want to keep making music just for the sake of making music, and that he wanted to end his career on a high note and leave a lasting impact on the music industry.
How do you define where you were at with Under Pressure and where you are with No Pressure?
All my dreams and ambitions and oh my God, and now I just dropped my first album. That's crazy. That's Under Pressure. To me, No Pressure is a culmination of all the things since I've been in the game, what I've learned, the hard times, the good times, the this, the that, up into this point of my life.
In an interview with GQ, Logic said, "I'm blessed enough to have money where I can retire now. And if I want to wake up and just stream video games, I can do that." He also said that he wanted to pursue other interests, such as writing books and screenplays. The criticism that I have for him is seeing that the energy around this album at this time was a sense of finality. And this was great. This was powerful because Logic appeared rejuvenated, filled with life, and a new perspective. And linking back up with No ID for this album was a great decision, and the cohesion and focus in this album was a strong takeaway, and it likely contributed to its positive reviews.
So this is soul food too. So let me explain something about this fucking record. The first time we did it, I couldn't find the person who owned the sample. And when I talk about the shit that I went through, dog, to clear this fucking album and how much money I essentially had to give away just to make this album, when I say I'm barely making a fucking cent, I mean it.
On the Aquarius song, he said that his son was coming soon, and that's a line that he normally would second guess or question, for fear that I guess we couldn't relate. However, I think that's exactly what fans want to hear from Logic. And I think hearing those experiences is great for us, and it closes a chapter, and it lets us see this rapper come full circle.
You know what I'm going for? Just fucking happiness, man. Like, that's the shit that makes me happy. And I really love music, and I'm always trying to find different ways of how to challenge myself with music, and that's why I love concept albums and doing all those kind of things. But outside of it, like, I love to write.
Upon Logic retiring at this time and departing from Def Jam, he signed a deal with Twitch and announced that his retirement was due to no longer being able to do what he loved to do without it being about just money.
I was moved to tears, and I was like, I'm tired. I'm not happy. And then, you know, on the internet, Logic has mental breakdown and all this shit. And I'm like, nah, I didn't have a mental breakdown. I had an emotional breakthrough, baby. Like, I understood what was important to me. And that is a part of this industry and this business that can be very, very difficult to deal with. And it's something I overcame, and I'm happy, and I came out the other side. And we can't say that for a lot of artists, and it's very sad.
Well, what's going on here? And then I realized what I really wanted to retire from, or kind of in a sense have, was just the bullshit of the internet.
And I use retirement loosely because, man, we know rappers don't retire. Cue in Vinyl Days. It turns out he wasn't done after all. Vinyl Days is a 30-track return to his fans, with Funkmaster Flex serving as the elected DJ for this album. And I want to stress that Logic has all the ability in the world to take that leap in creativity and quality as seen on this album. He just needs that clarity and focus. And I think at this point in his career, seeing how he deals with criticism, like criticism from Joe Budden or criticism from the Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano, or even Dead in Hip Hop, I don't think he has respect for the media.
I'm going to read it word for word like he read mine. Pump, 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 pump it up. Pump, 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 pump it up. Pump, 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 pump. This is exact. Pump it up. We gonna do it like,
Joe Budden, or anyone for that matter that critiques his art, but he does care. And if his perspective on why he's firing back at critics is because we don't know what he's been through, or we haven't done the things that he has done in his career, it's all true. But media is just as important to hip-hop and the rappers. You need commentators, and you need people to critique the culture and to critique artists. But I agree, our opinions are just opinions, and at the end of the day, he did build an amazing fan base and career, and that his biggest attribute is not his flow, it's not his production, not his hit records, but his heart, his consistency, and his persistence.